Thanks for listening to this, a screenplay or movie script reading of No Country for Old Men. Don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell button below if you want to be notified when new screenplay readings come out. Snow is falling in a gusting wind. The voice of an old man. I was sheriff of this county when I was 25. Hard to believe. Grandfather was a lawman. Father too. Me and him was sheriff at the same time. Him in Plano and me here. I think he was pretty proud of that. I know I was. We dissolve to another West Texas landscape. Sun is rising. Some of the old-time sheriffs never even wore a gun. A lot of folks find that hard to believe. Jim Scarborough never carried one. That's the younger Jim. Gaston Boykins wouldn't wear one. Up in Comanche County. We dissolve through more landscapes, bringing us to full day. None of them show people or human habitation. I always liked to hear about the old-timers. Never missed a chance to do so. Nigger Hoskins over in Bastrop County knowed everyone's phone number off by heart. You can't help but compare yourself against the old-timers. Can't help but wonder how they would have operated these times. There was this boy I sent to the gas chamber at Huntsville here a while back. My arrest and my testimony. He killed a 14-year-old girl. Papers said it was a crime of passion, but he told me there wasn't any passion to it. The last landscape, hard, sun-baked prairie, is surveyed in a long, slow pan. Told me that he'd been planning to kill somebody for about as long as he could remember. Said that if they turned him out, he'd do it again. The pan has brought into frame the flashing light bars of a police car stopped on the shoulder. A young sheriff's deputy is opening the rear door on the far side of the car. Said he knew he was going to hell. Be there in about 15 minutes. I don't know what to make of that. I surely don't. Close on a pair of hands manacled behind someone's back. A hand enters to take the prisoner by one arm. The crime you see now, it's hard to even take its measure. It's not that I'm afraid of it. Back to the shot over the light bars. The deputy with the hand on top of the prisoner's head to help him clear the doorframe eases the prisoner into the back seat. All we see of the prisoner is his dark hair disappearing into the car. I always knew you had to be willing to die to even do this job. Not to be glorious. But I don't want to push my chips forward and go out and meet something I don't understand. The deputy closes the back door. He opens the front passenger door and reaches down for something apparently heavy at his feet. You can't say it's my job to fight it, but I don't know what it is anymore. The deputy swings the heavy object into the front passenger seat. Matching inside the car, it looks like an oxygen tank with a petcock at the top and tubing running off of it. More than that, I don't want to know. A man would have to put his soul at hazard. The deputy slams the door. On the door slam, we cut to the Texas highway racing under the lens, the landscape flat to the horizon. The siren whoops. We would have to say, okay, I'll be part of this world. The deputy is seated in the sheriff's office on the phone. The prisoner stands in the background. Focus is too soft for us to see his features, but his posture shows that his arms are still behind his back. Yes, sir. Just walked in the door. Sheriff, he had some sort of a thing on him, like one of them oxygen tanks for emphysema or something, and a hose from it running down his sleeve. Behind him we see the prisoner seat himself on the floor, without making a sound, and scoot his manacled hand out under his legs. Hands in front of him now, he stands. Well, you got me, sir. You can see it when you get in. The prisoner approaches. As he nears the deputy's back, he grows sharper, but begins to crop out of the top of the frame. Yes, sir. I got it covered. As the deputy reaches forward to hang up, the prisoner is raising his hands out of frame just behind him. The manacled hands drop into frame, in front of the deputy's throat, and jerk back and up. The prisoner's momentum brings both men crashing backward to the floor, face up, deputy on top. The deputy reaches up to try and get his hands under the strangling chain. The prisoner breaks pressure. His wrists whiten around the manacles. The deputy's legs writhe and stamp. He moves in a clumsy circle. crabbing around the pivot point of the other man's back arched against the floor. The deputy's flailing legs kick over a wastebasket, send spinning the castered chair, slam at the desk. Blood creeps around the friction point where the cuffs bite the prisoner's wrists. Blood is being spit by the deputy. The prisoner feels with his thumb at the deputy's neck and averts his own face. A yank of the chain ruptures the carotid artery. It jets blood. The blood hits the office wall, drumming hollowly. The prisoner walks into the sheriff's bathroom, runs the water, and puts his wrists, now freed, under it. Close on the air tank, one hand, a towel wrapped at the wrist, reaches in to hoist it. Road rushes under the lens. Point of view through a windshield of tail lights ahead, the only pair in sight. A siren bloop. The car pulls over, a four-doored Ford sedan. The police car pulls over behind. The prisoner, his name Anton Chigurh, gets out of the police car and slings the tank over his shoulder. He walks up the road to the man cranking down his window, groping for his wallet. What's this about?" "Step out of the car, please, sir." The motorists squint at the man with the strange apparatus. "Huh? What is—" "I need you to step out of the car, sir." The man opens his door and emerges. "Am I—" Chigurh reaches up the man's forehead with the end of the tube connected to the air tank. "Would you hold still, please, sir?" A hard pneumatic sound. The man flops back against the car. Blood trickles from the hole in the middle of his forehead. Chigurh waits for the body to slide down the car and crumple, clearing the front door. He opens it and hoists the air tank over into the front seat. Seen through an extreme telephoto lens, heat shimmer rises from the desert floor. A pan of the horizon discovers a distant herd of antelope. The animals are grazing. Reverse on a man in blue jeans and cowboy boots sitting on his heels, elbows on knees, peering through a pair of binoculars. A heavy-barreled rifle is slung across his back. This is Moss. He lowers the binoculars, slowly unslings the rifle, and looks through its sight. The view through the sight swims for a moment to refine the herd. One animal is staring directly at us, its motion arrested, as if it's heard or seen something. Close on Moss's eyes, one at the sight, the other closed. He mutters, "Hold still." He opens the free eye and rolls his head off the sight to give himself stereo. Close on the hatch-marked range dial of the sight, Moss delicately thumbs it. He eases the one eye back onto the sight. Point of view through the sight. Moss adjusts to bring the crosshairs back down to the staring animal. Moss's finger tightens on the trigger. Shot. Gun buck swishes the point of view upward. Moss fights it back down. The point of view through the sight finds the beast again, still staring at us. The sound of the gunshot rings out across the burial. Short beat. The bullet hits the antelope, not a kill. The animal recoils and runs, packing one leg. The other animals are off with it. Shit. He stands and jacks out the spent casing which jangles against the rocks. He stoops for it and puts it in his shirt pocket. Moss is on foot, rifle again slung over his shoulder, binoculars around his neck. He is looking at the ground. An intermittent trail of blood. Moss's pace is brisk. Distances are long. He suddenly stops, staring. On the ground is the fresh trail of blood, the glistening drops already dry at the periphery, but this trail is crossed by another trail of blood, drier. Moss looks one way along this older trail. His point of view, flatlands, scrub, no movement. He looks the other way. A distant range of mountains, no movement. He stoops to examine the trail. He paces it till he finds a print clear enough to give him the animal's orientation. He stands and looks again toward the distant mountains. He brings up the binoculars. His point of view, landscape, swimming into focus, heat waves exaggerated by the compression of the lens. Panning, looking for the animal. Movement. Very distant. The animal is brought into focus. A black tailless dog, huge head, limping badly, phantasmal by virtue of the rippling heat waves in the silence. Moss lowers the glass. A moment of thought as he gazes off. He turns and heads in the direction from which the dog came. Moss tops a rise. He scans the landscape below. Not much to see except distant glints, off something not native to the environment. Moss brings up the binoculars. Parked vehicles. 3 of them. Squat. Broncos or other off-road trucks with fat tires. Winches in the bed and racks of roof lights. On the ground near the trucks, dark shapes lie still. Moss is walking cautiously up to the site, unslung rifle at the ready. Flies drone. He circles 2 dead bodies lying in the grass, covered with blood. A gut-shot dog of the same kind we saw limping toward the mountains lies beside them. A sawed-off shotgun with a pistol stock lies in the grass. The tires and most of the window glass are shot out of the first pickup Moss approaches. He opens the door and looks inside. The driver is dead, leaning over the wheel. Moss shuts the door. He opens the door of the second truck. The driver, sitting upright, still in shoulder harness, is staring at him. Moss stumbles back, raising the rifle. The man does not move. The front of his shirt is covered with blood. Agua. Moss stares at him. Agua. Por Dios. Ain't got no water. On the seat next to the man is an HK machine pistol. Moss looks at it. He looks at the man. The man is still staring at him. Without lowering his eyes, Moss reaches in and takes the pistol. Moss straightens up out of the truck and slings the rifle back over his shoulder. He snaps the clip off the machine pistol, checks it, and snaps it back on. Moss crosses to the back of the truck and lifts the tarp that covers the truck bed. A load of brick-sized brown parcels, each wrapped in plastic. He throws the tarp back over the load and crosses back to the open cab door. Agua. I told you I ain't got no agua. You speak English? A blank look. Where's the last guy? The injured man stares, unresponsive. Moss persists. Último hombre. Last man standing. Must have been one. Where'd he go? Agua. Moss turns to scan the horizon. He looks at the tire tracks extending back from the truck. He thinks for a beat. I reckon I'd go out the way I came in. He starts off. Through the truck's open door. La puerta. Hay lobos. Moss walks away. Ain't no lobos. Moss stops to look out at a new prospect. Flatland, no cover. He raises the binoculars. If you stopped to watch your backtrack, you're gonna shoot my dumb ass. He doesn't see anything. He lowers the glass, thinking. He raises the glass again. But if you stopped in shade. He sets off. Through the binoculars, sometime later, one lone shelf of the rock throws shade towards us. Heat shimmers in between. Hard sun makes the rock shadow impenetrable. But there's a booted foot sticking into the sun, toe up, like the nub on a sundial. Moss lowers the binoculars. He looks at his watch. 11:30. He sits down. The watch now says 12:30. Moss lowers the wristwatch and raises the binoculars again. The shadow has shifted. The foot hasn't moved. Moss gets up and walks towards it. Moss arrives at the rock shelf. The man's body is tipped to one side. His nose is in the dirt, but his eyes are open, as if he is examining something quite small on the ground. One hand holds a .45 automatic. Next to the body is a boxy leather document case. Moss looks at the man. He takes the gun, looks at it, sticks it in his belt. He drags the document case away from the body and opens it. Bank-wrapped hundreds fill it. Each packet is stamped $10,000. Moss stares. He reaches in to rifle the stacks, either to confirm that the bag is full or to estimate the amount. He stands, looks around, looks back the way he came. Moss's pickup is parked by a cattle guard off a paved but little used road. Moss is just arriving. He throws in the document case, the rifle, and the machine pistol, climbs into the cab, and slams the door. Moss's truck pulls into a trailer park that sits alongside the highway on the outskirts of Sanderson, Texas. An old sign with a neon palm tree identifies the park as the Desert Air. Moss gets out of the truck next to a double wide. Lights glow inside. He takes the case and machine pistol, gets down on his back next to the trailer, and scoots underneath it. His point of view: plywood and plastic pipes. He pulls some insulation aside and crams the machine pistol up under the pipes. Moss enters carrying the document case. A 20-something woman in cutoff jeans and a halter top watches TV. This is Carla Jean. "What's in the satchel?" "It's full of money." "That'll be the day." Moss is crossing to a back bedroom. Before he disappears inside, Carla Jean sees the pistol stuck in the back of his waistband. "Where'd you get the pistol?" "At the getting place." He emerges without the case or the gun and crosses to the refrigerator. He takes a beer from the refrigerator and peels its pull tab. "Did you buy that gun?" "No, I found it." "Llewellyn!" "What? Quit hollering." He walks back, sipping the beer, and sprawls on the couch. "What'd you give for that thing?" "You don't need to know everything, Carla Jean." "I need to know that." "You keep running that mouth, I'm going to take you in the back and screw you." "Big talk." "Just keep it up." "Fine, I don't want to know. I don't even want to know where you been all day." "That'll work." We are drifting down toward Moss as he lies in bed next to Carla Jean. He lies still, eyes closed, but he is shaking his head. As the camera stops, he opens his eyes, grimacing. "All right." He looks at the bedside clock. Its LED display, 1:06. He swings his legs off the bed, looks back at Carla Jean, and pulls the blanket up over her shoulder. Close up on a gallon jug as Moss holds it under the tap, filling it with water. Carla Jean appears in the doorway looking sleepy. "Llewellyn?" "Yeah?" "What are you doing, baby?" "Going out." "Going where?" "Something I forgot to do. I'll be back." "What are you going to do?" Moss turns from the sink, screwing the top onto the jug. "I'm fixing to do something. Dumber than hell, but I'm going anyway." He starts toward the front door. "If I don't come back, tell Mother I love her." "Your mother's dead, Llewellyn." "Well, then I'll tell her myself." A detailed topographical survey map illuminated by a flashlight. Moss is studying it in the cab of his truck. After a beat, he folds the map. He checks the .45 taken off the corpse with the money. The pickup truck parked outside the cattle guard. After a beat, the truck drives over the grate onto the unpaved part of the road, jogging up the uneven terrain. Through the windshield, the view is pitch black except for the boulders and scrub picked out by the crazily bouncing headlights. We are close on the water jug slapping against Moss's leg as we pull him through the darkness. The shape of his parked truck is still visible behind him, silhouetted on the crest by the glow of the moon already set. Walking across the basin to the near truck, Moss freezes, noticing its driver's side door is closed. Moss scans the horizon. Its only blemish remains his own pickup. He jogs the few remaining paces to the pickup. He sets down the gallon jug softly. "Hello?" No answer. He opens the door. The man's body is still held upright by the shoulder harness by his head, flayed by buckshot, is tipped away. Moss glances at the bed of the truck. It's empty. He again looks at the horizon. Now another pickup stands in silhouette next to his own. 2 men are there. Moss covers behind the dead man's truck. He eases his head out for another look. Only one man is visible now. Sounds hard to identify. Something airy. Up on the crest, his pickup rocks and settles. Its tires are being slashed. The other pickup's engine coughs to life. Headlights and roof lights go on. Moss again covers behind the vehicle. A search spot sweeps back and forth across the basin tableau of bodies and trucks. After a few trips back and forth, something happens to the spot. Its weaving light begins to bounce. We hear the jouncing suspension of a pickup as it trundles down the incline. But the light tells the perspective of the slowly approaching truck. Moss stays in the lee of his sheltering vehicle as he runs doubled over, directly away from the light, keeping to the shadow that wipes on and off. A gunshot. Its impact kicks up the dirt just ahead of Moss to his right. Moss turns to see 2 jogging men flanking the truck like infantry, escorting a tank. One has just halted fire. The other one is now raising his gun. Moss tacks and sprints and rolls under a second abandoned pickup to his left. Another shot sounds and misses. Bullets plunk into the metal of the truck body. One bullet skips off the dirt in front of the truck and pings up to the undercarriage. Moss is elbowing out the far side, next to a body lying by the truck's passenger door. The firing has stopped. Moss steals a look over the hood. The pursuing pickup is slowing so that the 2 men can swing onto the running boards. The truck accelerates, and as it veers around the first abandoned pickup, its lights swing off Moss's cover truck. Moss sprints off, doubled over, at a perpendicular to his previous path. He hits the ground, pressing himself onto the earth, head between his forearms. He elbows away as the truck bears on his former cover. He tops the small rise and straightens out and flat out runs. We hear the pickup's engine racing and see behind Moss its spots sweeping backlight across the crest. Moss is running toward the declivity of the river gorge. Sky there is pink from unrisen sun. Moss bears on the gorge panting. The pickup bounces up into view on the crest behind him, roof lights blazing. It is pointed off at an angle. Its spotlight sweeps the river plain. It finds Moss. The truck reorients as it bounces down in pursuit. A muzzle flash precedes the dull whump of the shotgun. Moss races on toward the river. Another shotgun whump. Moss stumbles, turns to look behind him. The truck gaining ground. A man stands up out of the sunroof, one hand on top of the cab, the other holding a shotgun. Moss is almost to the steep riverbank. Another whump of the shotgun. Shot catches Moss on the right shoulder. It tears the back of his shirt away and sends him over the crest of the riverbank. Moss is airborne, ass over elbows, hits near the bottom of the sandy slope with a loud thwump. He rolls to a stop and looks up. We hear a skidding squeal and see dirt and dust float over the lip of the ridge, thrown by the truck's hard stop. As Moss pulls off his boots, we hear voices from the men in the truck. There is the clank of its tailgate being dropped and sounds of activity on the hollow metal of its bed. Moss tucks his boots into his belt and runs, splashing into the fast-moving water. A look back. Something shakes the scrub down the steep slope. Moss backpedals deeper. Bursting out of the scrub, at the foot of the slope, a huge black dog with a large head and clipped ears. It bounds towards Moss. Moss turns and half stumbles, half dives into the river. Underwater, a very dull whump followed by a fizz of buckshot. Moss breaks the surface of the water, gasping, and looks back. Figures on the ridge. Below, the dog hitting the water. Another gunshot from the bank. Where it hits, we don't know. River current and Moss's strokes speed him away. He sweeps around a bend. He finds his feet under him and staggers onto a sandbar, then splashes through some outwash to the far bank. The pursuing dog's head bobs rhythmically in the water. Moss pulls the gun from his belt. He takes the clip out and ejects the chamber round. The dog finds his stumpy leg much closer to the sandbar. His massive head dips and waggles as he lurches out of his swim. He emerges from the river and bounds across the sand. Moss shakes the gun and blows into the barrel. The dog splashes through the river wash that separates him from the human. Moss reinserts the clip. He chambers the round as the dog runs snarling, and as the dog leaps, he fires. Moss fires twice more quickly, not waiting to see whether the first round told. The dog lands, stops, but not dead. It jerks and gurgles. God damn it. He is looking out at the river. His boots are drifting by. Moss has climbed the far bank and found a seat on a rock. It is now full day. Moss has taken off his shirt and has his neck craned around and his back upper arm twisted toward him, where the buckshot hit. His arm is purple and pinpricked. He meticulously picks shirt fiber out from where the buckshot packed it into the flesh. He finishes. He rips swatches from his shirt. He starts wrapping his bare feet as he gazes off. His point of view. A lot of landscape. A highway in the distance. An 18-wheeler shimmies along in the heat. At an isolated dusty crossroad, it is twilight. The Ford sedan that Chigurh stopped is parked alongside the pump. Chigurh stands at the counter across from the elderly proprietor. He holds up a bag of cashews. How much? 69 cents. This, and the gas. Y'all getting any rain up your way? What way would that be? I seen you was from Dallas. Chigurh tears open the bag of cashews and pours a few into his hand. What business is it of yours where I'm from, friendo? I didn't mean nothing by it. Didn't mean nothing. I was just passing the time. I guess that passes for manners in your cracker view of things. A beat. Well, sir, I apologize. If you don't want to accept that, I don't know what else I can do for you. Chigurh stands chewing cashews, staring, while the old man works the register and puts change on the counter. Will there be something else? I don't know. Will there? Beat. The proprietor turns and coughs. Chigurh stares. Is something wrong? With what? With anything? Is that what you're asking me? Is there something wrong with anything? The proprietor looks at him uncomfortable and looks away. Will there be anything else? You already asked me that. Well, I need to see about closing. See about closing? Yes, sir. What time do you close? Now. We close now. Now is not a time. What time do you close? Generally around dark. At dark. Chigurh stares, slowly chewing. You don't know what you're talking about, do you? Sir? I said you don't know what you're talking about. Chigurh chews. What time do you go to bed? Sir? You're a bit deaf, aren't you? I said, what time do you go to bed? Well, a pause. I say around 9:30, somewhere around 9:30. I could come back then. Why would you be coming back? We'll be closed. You said that. He continues to stare, chewing. Well, I need to close now. You live in that house behind the store? Yes, I do. You lived there all your life? A beat. This was my wife's father's place originally. You married into it. We lived in Temple, Texas for many years. Raised a family there, in Temple. We come out here about 4 years ago. You married into it. If that's the way you want to put it. I don't have some way to put it, that's the way it is. He finishes the cashews and wads the packet, sets it on the counter where it begins to slowly unkink. The proprietor's eyes have tracked the packet. Chigurh's eyes stay on the proprietor. What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sir? The most you ever lost on a coin toss? I don't know, I couldn't say. Chigurh is digging in his pocket. A quarter. He tosses it, slaps it onto his forearm but keeps it covered. Call it. Call it? Yes. For what? Just call it. Well, we need to know what it is we're calling for here. You need to call it. I can't call it for you. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't even be right. I didn't put nothing up. Yes, you did. You've been putting it up your whole life. You just didn't know it. You know what date is on this coin? No. 1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here, and now it's here, and it's either head or tails. And you have to say, call it. A long beat. Look, I gotta know what I stand to win. Everything. How's that? You stand to win everything. Call it. All right, heads then. Chigurh takes his hand from the coin and turns his arm to look at it. Well done. He hands it across. Don't put it in your pocket. Sir? Don't put it in your pocket. It's your lucky quarter. Where do you want me to put it? Anywhere, not in your pocket, or it'll get mixed in with the others and just become a coin. Which it is. He turns and goes. The proprietor watches him. It is full night. Moss is pushing open the door to his trailer. We see Carla Jean inside. Llewellyn, what the hell? Moss enters and the door closes. Carla Jean is finishing bandaging his arm. Odessa. Why would we go to Odessa? Not we, you. Stay with your mother. Well, how come? Right now, it's midnight Sunday. When the courthouse opens 9 hours from now, someone's going to be calling in the vehicle number off the inspection plate on my truck, and around 9:30 they'll show up here. So for how long do we have to... Baby, at what point would you quit bothering to look for your $2 million? Carla Jean stares, thinking. What am I supposed to tell Mama? Try standing in the door and hollering, Mama, I'm home. Llewellyn, come on, pack your things. Anything you leave, you ain't gonna see again. Carla Jean begins peevishly tossing things into a bag. Well, thanks for falling all over and apologizing. Things happen. I can't take 'em back. It's nighttime. No other vehicles on this paved road. Our car turns off and rattles over a cattle guard. Parked on the other side is a Ram Charger. Its passenger door starts to open. Outside, Chigurh emerges from his Ford. The man emerging from the truck wears a western-cut suit. Mine ridin', bitch. Bouncing through ungraded terrain in the Ram Charger. It stops and discharges the 3 men, the driver and his partner, both in suits from either side, then Chigurh from the middle seat. They have pulled over at Moss's truck. This his truck? He's opening the door and looking at the plate riveted inside. Scroogey. The man reaches into a pocket and hands over a screwdriver, as Chigurh works it under the plate. Who slashed his tires? Wasn't us. A flashlight beam picks out the dog carcass. That's a dead dog. Thank you. Chigurh plays the flashlight around the scene. Dead bodies on the ground. Where's the transponder? In the truck, I'll get it. These are some ripe petunias. Chigurh gives his flashlight to the driver. Hold this, please. He bends down and takes a 9mm Glock off one of the dead bodies and checks the clip. The other man is returning from the truck. He hands Chigurh a small electronic receiver. You getting anything on this? Not a bleep. All right. Chigurh stands and holds his hand out for his flashlight. The driver hands it to him. Chigurh shines it in his face and shoots him through the forehead. As the man falls, Chigurh pans the light to the other man who is watching his partner drop. He looks up puzzled, and is shot as well. A horse trailer is backed up to a small stable with its gate down. Sheriff Bell, 60s, in uniform, slaps a horse on the ass and gives it a "Hyah!" to send it clattering up the ramp and into the trailer. His wife, Loretta, appears. She wears a heavy robe and holds a coffee mug. I thought it was a car afire. It is a car afire, but Wendell said there's something backcountry too. When is the county going to start paying a rental on my horse? Hyah! He is sending a second horse onto the trailer. I love you more and more every day. That's very nice. Sheriff Bell puts up the gate and pins it. She watches. Be careful. I always am. Don't get hurt. I never do. Don't hurt no one. Well, if you say so. The pickup with horse trailer rattles up next to a parked squad car. Just behind the cattle guard, the Ford sedan is blazing. Sheriff Bell gets out of the truck and joins his deputy, Wendell, looking at the car. After a beat of staring. You wouldn't think a car would burn like that. Yes, sir, we should have brought Wainers. Sheriff Bell takes his hat off and mops his brow. Does that look to you like a 77 Ford, Wendell? Could be. I'd say it is. Not a doubt in my mind. The old boy shot by the highway? Yes, sir. His vehicle. Man killed Lamar's deputy, took his car, killed someone on the highway, swapped for his car, and now here it is, and he's swapped again for God knows what. That's a very linear, Sheriff. Bell stares at the fire. Well, old age flattens a man. Yes, sir, but then there's this other. He nods up on the ridge away from the highway. Uh-huh. He walks back toward the trailer. You ride Winston. You sure? Oh, I'm more than sure. Anything happens to Loretta's horse, I can tell you right now, you do not want to be the party that was aboard. The two men on horseback pick their way through the scrub, approaching Moss's truck. Sheriff Bell is studying the ground. It's the same tire tread coming back as going. Maybe about the same time. You can see the sipes real clear. Wendell is standing in the stirrups, looking up the ridge. Truck's just yonder. Somebody's pried the inspection plate off the door. Bell looks up, circling the truck. I know this truck. Belongs to a feller named Moss. Llewellyn Moss? That's the boy. You figure him for a dope runner? Bell sits his horse looking at the slashed tires. I don't know, but I kindly doubt it. The two lawmen are dismounting. Hell's bells, they even shot the dog. They walk towards the near truck. Well, this is just a deal gone wrong. Sheriff Bell stoops to look at casings. Yes, appears to have been a glitch or two. What calibers you got there, Sheriff? 9mm, couple of 45 ACPs. He stands, looking at the truck. Somebody unloaded on this thing with a shotgun. Bell opens the door of the truck, looks at the dead driver. How come you reckon the coyotes ain't been at him? I don't know. He shuts the door softly with two hands. I suppose they won't eat a Mexican. Wendell is looking at the two corpses close together, wearing suits. These boys appear to be managerial. Bell walks back toward the bed of the truck as Wendell appraises. I think we're looking at more than one fracas. A gesture toward the scattered bodies. Wild West over there. A nod down at the two men in suits with head wounds. Execution here. Bell at the back of the truck wets a finger and runs it against the bed and looks at it. That Mexican brown dope. Wendell strolls among the bodies. These boys is all swole up. So this was earlier, getting set to trade. Then, whoa, differences, you know. Might not have even been no money. That's possible. But you don't believe it. No, probably I don't. It's a mess, ain't it, Sheriff? Bell is remounting. If it ain't, it'll do till a mess gets here. Air tank. We follow it totted along a gravel path and up 3 shallow steps to a trailer door. A hand rises to knock. Moss's trailer, day. We follow the air tank being toted along a gravel path and up 3 shallow steps to a trailer door. A hand rises to knock. Tubing runs out of the sleeve and into the fist clenched to knock. The door rattles under the knock, a short beat. The hand opens to press the nozzle at the end of the tube against the lock cylinder, a sharp report. Inside, a cylinder of brass from the door slams into the far wall, denting it, and drops to the floor and rolls. Reverse on the door. Daylight shows through the lock. The door swings in slowly, and Chigurh, hard backlit, enters. He sets the tank down by the door. He looks around. He ambles in. He opens a door. The bedroom, a messy aftermath of hasty packing. The main room. Mail is stacked on the countertop that separates the kitchen area. Chigurh flips unhurriedly through the pieces. One of them is a phone bill. He puts it in his pocket. He goes to the refrigerator. He opens it. He looks for a still beat. He decides. He reaches out a quart of milk. He goes to the main room sofa and sits. He pinches the spout open and drinks. He looks at himself in the dead gray-green screen of the facing television. Chigurh enters the desert air office. Old plywood paneling, gunmetal desk, litter of papers. A window air conditioner works hard. A 50-year-old woman with a cast-iron hairdo sits behind the desk. Yes, sir? I'm looking for Llewellyn Moss. Did you go up to his trailer? Yes, I did. Well, I'd say he's at work. Do you want to leave a message? Where does he work? I can't say. Where does he work? Sir, I ain't at liberty to give out no information about our residents. Chigurh looks around the office. He looks at the woman. Where does he work? Did you not hear me? We can't give out no information. A toilet flushes somewhere. A door unlatches. Footsteps in the back. Chigurh reacts to the noise. He looks at the woman. He turns and opens the door and leaves. Some of the passengers are getting out. Moss is up in the aisle, reaching a bag down from the overhead rack. He lifts the document case from the floor where Carla Jean still sits next to the window. Why all the way to Del Rio? I'm going to borrow a car from Eldon. Carla Jean nods at the document case. You can't afford one? Don't want to register it. I'll call you in a couple days. Promise? Yes, I do. I got a bad feeling, Llewellyn. Well, I got a good one, so they ought to even out. Quit worrying about everything. Mama's going to raise hell. Uh-huh. She's just going to cuss you up and down. You should be used to that. I'm used to a lot of things. I work at Walmart. Not anymore, Carla Jean. You're retired. Llewellyn. Yes, ma'am. You are coming back, aren't you? I shall return. Wendell is knocking on the door at Llewellyn's trailer. Sheriff Bell stands one step behind him. Sheriff's Department. No answer. Look at the lock. They both look. A beat. We going in? Gun out and up. Wendell unholsters his gun, but hesitates. What about yours? I'm hiding behind you. Wendell eases the door open. Sheriff's Department! The men cautiously enter, Wendell leading. Nobody here. He lowers his gun and starts to holster it. No reason not to stay safe. Wendell keeps the gun out. No, sir. He goes to the bedroom door as Sheriff Bell, seeing the lock cylinder on the floor, stoops and hefts it. He looks up at the wall opposite the door, the small dent. Wendell pulls his head out of the bedroom. I believe they've done lit a shuck. Believe you're right. That from the lock? Sheriff Bell stands and wanders, looking around. Probably must be. So when was he here? I don't know. Oh. Bell is at the counter, staring at something. Now that's aggravating. Sheriff? Sheriff Bell points at the carton of milk. Still sweating. Wendell is agitated. Whoa, Sheriff! Sheriff Bell unhurriedly opens a cabinet. He looks, closes it, opens another. Sheriff, we just missed him. We gotta circulate this on the radio. Sheriff Bell takes a glass from the cabinet. Well, okay. He pours milk into the glass. What do we circulate? He sits on the sofa and takes a sip from the milk. Looking for a man who has recently drunk milk? Wendell stares at him. Sheriff, that's aggravating. I'm ahead of you there. Wendell gazes around the trailer, shaking his head. You think this boy Moss has got any notion of the sorts of sons of bitches that are hunting him? I don't know. He ought to. Sheriff Bell takes another sip. He's seen the same things I've seen, and it made an impression on me. Moss emerges from the bus station and goes to a cab. As he sits in, take me to a motel. You got one in mind? Just someplace cheap. The rates for Charlie's Goodnight Del Rio Motor Court are under its address of Highway 84 East and an ovaled AAA logo. Single person, $24. Double bed, $27. 2 bed/couple, $28. 2 double beds, 3 people, $32. Voices play off. You tell me the option. The what? The option. A wider shot shows that we are in a motel lobby. A woman faces Moss. Across a Formica countertop, she has handed him the framed rate card. You pick the option with the applicable rate. I'm just one person. Don't matter the size of bed. Wide shot on the room. Twin bed headboards are fixed to a wall, but only the far one has a bed parked beneath it. Moss sits on the bed, phone to his ear. It rings a couple times. He gives up, hangs up, rises. Moss stands in front of a mirror, twisting around to examine the buckshot wound. He shrugs his shirt back on. Holding on the mirror, we see him walk into the main room and stop, looking around. He looks slowly up to the ceiling. We see a screw being unscrewed. Wider shot shows us Moss, standing on the bed, unscrewing the vent on an overhead air duct. He gets down off the bed, unzips his duffel bag, and takes the document case out of it. He opens the case, takes out a packet of bills, counts out some of the money, and puts it in his pocket. He refastens the case. He goes to the window and cuts off a length of the curtain cord. He ties the curtain cord to the handle of the document case. He goes to the closet, leaving the case on the bed. He reaches into the empty closet, lifts the coat rail off its supports, and lets the hanger slide onto the floor. The duct hums with a low, airy compressor sound. The galvanized metal stretches away to a distant elbow. The document case is plunked down in the foreground and then gently pushed down the length of the tube by the coat pole. The free end of the cord trails off the handle for retrieval. Moss unzips the duffel and pulls out the machine pistol and the .45 that he took off the dead man. He lifts the mattress and stashes the machine pistol underneath it. He checks the chamber of the .45 and stuffs it in his belt. Moss pulls back one curtain to look out at the lot. Nothing there disturbs him. He closes the curtains, crossing one over the other. He goes out the door, shutting it softly behind him. A pencil is tapping at the Del Rio number that repeats on the bill. We hear phone-filtered rings. The rings are cut off by the clatter of a hang-up. The pencil moves to an Odessa number, the only other repeat on the short lists of toll calls. We cut up to Chigurh as he finishes dialing in the booth of the roadside diner. Dusk. Phone-filtered rings. Connection. A young woman's voice. "Hello? Is Llewellyn there?" "No, he ain't." "You expect him?" The woman's voice is old, querulous. "Now, why would I expect him? Who is this?" Chigurh stares for a short beat, then prongs the phone. Moss is standing in front of a rack of cowboy boots at the back of the store. He looks up at an approaching salesman, a bow-legged old man in a white shirt. "Help you?" "I need the Larry Mahons in black, size 11. "Okay. You sell socks?" "Just white." He gathers up a brown paper bag from a pharmacy. "White is all I wear. You got a bathroom?" Moss is sitting on the toilet taking off socks with bloody soles. Sneakers sit on the floor. The pharmacy bag sits next to them. He sprays disinfectant on his feet. He takes out bandages. Moss is returning. The bow-legged salesman stands in the aisle holding aloft a pair of boots. "Ain't got Larry's in black, but I got 'em at the Osterrich. Break in easy." We see a cab rolling to a stop in front of Charlie's Goodnight Del Rio Motor Hotel. Moss fishes for his wallet but stops, looking. Parked in the street in front of the motel is an off-road truck with roof lights. "Don't stop. Just ride me up past the rooms." "What rooms?" "Just drive me around. I want to see if someone's here." The cab rolls slowly up the lot. "Keep going." His pivoting point of view of his room. The window shows a part between the curtains. "Keep going. Don't stop." "I don't want to get in some kind of jackpot here, buddy." "It's all right. Why don't I set you down here and we won't argue about it? I want you to take me to another motel. Let's just call it square." Moss reaches a $100 bill up to the driver. "You're already in a jackpot. I'm trying to get you out of it. Now take me to a motel." The driver reaches up for the bill, then turns the cab out of the parking lot onto the highway. Moss turns to look at the receding lights of the motel. We see pavement rushing by, lit by headlights. From high up we see a thoroughway interchange as Chigurh's Ram Charger takes the right fork of the highway under a green sign for Del Rio. Chigurh looks down at the passenger's seat. On it lies a transponder, powered on but silent. Next to it is a machine pistol with a can-shaped silencer sweated onto the barrel. The transponder beeps once. Chigurh looks up. We are approaching a steel bridge. The headlights pick up a large black bird perched on the aluminum bridge rail. The passenger window hums down. Chigurh picks up the pistol and levels the barrel across the window frame. The truck bumps onto the bridge, its tires skidding over the seams in the asphalt. As it draws even, the bird spreads its wings and Chigurh fires, a muted thump like a whoosh of air. From high overhead, the bullet hits the guardrail, making it hum as the Ram Charger recedes and the bird lifts into the darkness, heavily flapping its wings. Cafe. Morning. Bell sits drinking coffee. Wendell stands in the aisle handing something over. He labs from Austin, on the man by the highway. Bell takes the papers and starts to look at them. What was the bullet? Wasn't no bullet. This brings Bell's look up. Wasn't no bullet? Yes, sir, wasn't none. Well, Wendell, with all due respect, that don't make a whole lot of sense. No, sir. You said entrance wound in the forehead, no exit wound. Yes, sir. Are you telling me he shot this boy in the head then went fishing around in there with a pocket knife? Sir, I don't want to picture that. Well, I don't neither. A beat during which both men picture it, ending by an arriving waitress. Can I freshen that there for you, Sheriff? The sheriff's distressed look swings onto her. Yes, Noreen, you better had. Thank you. The Rangers and DEA are heading out to the desert this morning. You gonna join them? I don't know. Any new bodies accumulated out there? No, sir. Well, then I guess I can skip it. Heavens to Betsy Wendell, you already put me off my breakfast. Moss pushes off from the wall he was leaning against. Someone inside the glass double doors is stooping to unlock them. The clerk is handing a shotgun across the counter. 12 gauge. You need shells? Moss looks the gun over. Uh-huh. Double-aught. They'll give you a wallop. He pushes the shells across. You have camping supplies? A clerk stares at Moss. Tent poles. Uh-huh. You already have a tent? Something like that. Well, you give me the model number of the tent and I can order you the poles. Never mind, I want a tent. What kind of tent? The kind with the most poles. Well, I guess that'd be our 10-foot backyard pergola. You can stand up on it. Well, some people could stand up on it. 6-foot clearance at the ridge. You might just could. Let me have that one. Where's the nearest hardware store? He has the shotgun wedged in an open drawer and is sawing off its barrel with a hacksaw. Moss sits on the bed, dressing the barrel with a file. He puts down the file, looks at the barrel. He slides the forearm back and forward again and lets the hammer down with his thumb. He looks the gun over, appraising, and then opens the box of shells and starts feeding in the heavy waxed loads. Moss enters carrying a new duffel bag. The same woman is behind the counter. Could I get another room? You want to change rooms? No, I want to keep my room and get the other one. Another additional? Uh-huh. You, got a map of the rooms? She inclines her head to look under the counter. Yeah, we had a sort of one. She finds a brochure and hands it across. It shows a car from the 50s parked in front of the hotel in hard sunlight. Moss unfolds the brochure and studies. What about 142? You can have the one next to yours if you want. 120. It ain't took. No, 142. That's got 2 double beds. An arcing point of view on the windows of Moss's old room, the curtain still slightly open. A reverse shows Moss crossing the lot from the office carrying his long nylon duffel bag, studying the room. He looks further down the street. The truck with the roof lights is still parked there. 2 double beds. Moss is listening at the wall. He goes to the bed and unzips the duffel bag and pulls out the sawed-off shotgun. He lays it on the bed. He pulls the tent poles and some duct tape out of the duffel. Chigurh is driving slowly down the street, with frequent glances down at the receiver on the seat next to him. The receiver lights ups and bleeps one time. Chigurh slows and looks around at the building that line the 2-lane highway. Moss is standing on a desk chair, unscrewing the plate from the overhead duct. He lays it aside and raises a flashlight and peers into the air duct. Down the length of the duct, we see an elbow junction 10 feet away. The end of the document case is just visible, sticking out into the elbow. The receiver is bleeping slowly in Chigurh's car as it creeps along. Up at a distant intersection is Charlie Goodnight's Del Rio Motel. Moss rips off a length of duct tape. He wraps it around 2 tent poles placed end to end, but an inch apart, not butting. He gives the tape several winds. Chigurh is slowly driving the parking lot. The receiver is now on his lap. The beeping frequency peaks, and then starts to fall off. Chigurh puts the truck in reverse and eases back to the peak. His point of view, window with parted curtains. Moss experiments with the tape joint, angling then straightening the 2 poles. Satisfied, he starts taping on a 3rd length of pole. Chigurh stands across the counter from the clerk who looks at him waiting. He is frowning at the rate card. A door swings slowly in towards us. Chigurh stands in the doorway. The room number bangle hangs off the key in the knob. He stares in for a beat. He enters slowly and reaches up for the light switch. He doesn't turn it on. He drops his hand. He reaches up again, feeling it. He looks around the room. He takes the key and closes the door behind him. Moss pulls 3 wire hangers off the closet rack. He takes them to the bureau and picks up a side cutter. Chigurh walks over to the bathroom. He turns on its light, looks. He leaves the door open. He goes to a closet, opens it, looks. He goes to the door of the room, but doesn't open it. He stands with his back against it and looks at the room. The bathroom door, the closet door. Chigurh goes to the bed and sits to take off his boots. Moss snips the last of the wire hanger's hooks off with the side cutter. He wraps the 3 hooks with duct tape to make a sturdier one. He wraps more tape to attach this hook to the end of the 3-link pole. Chigurh, from the bag, he withdraws a 12-gauge automatic shotgun, fitted with a silencer big around as a beer can. He checks the loads. He picks up the regularly beeping receiver, turns it off, and slips it into his pocket. He hoists the air tank. Moss is standing on a chair below the air duct, stooping to pick up the jury-rigged pole leaning nearby. He straightens and feels the length of the pole into the duct, using the joints to angle it in. Inside the duct, he watches the pole play in, illuminated by the flashlight he has left resting inside. We track on some stockinged feet padding down the exterior walkway. Moss is peering along the air duct, both hands up next to one ear, awkwardly maneuvering the pole. He lays the far, hooked end over the protruding corner of the document case, and he pulls. The pole slides off the case. Chigurh stands at the door of Moss's first room. He eases an ear against it. He steps back. He punches out the lock cylinder with the air gun and kicks in the door, raising the shotgun. A Mexican in a gallabera reclines on one of the 2 double beds. He is scrabbling for a machine pistol on the nightstand. Chigurh fires 3 times quickly. The damped blasts have the low resonance of chugs into a bottle. Head still in the air duct. Moss still, frozen, listening. Chigurh also frozen, back against the wall outside the room, to one side of the open door. After a beat, he steps back into an open doorway, leveling the gun. Inside the room, no movement. Much of the man on the bed is spattered against the chewed-up headboard. The bathroom door is ajar, its light on. A long beat. Movement in the wedge of light. Immediately, chugs from the shotgun chew up the bathroom door and nearby wallboard. A cry from inside. A brief chatter of machine pistol. Moss's point of view along the air vent. The machine pistol chatter crosses the cut. We hear the bullets snap through metal. The sound brings on indirect light as holes are punched in the duct somewhere around the bend. Moss holds still as the galvanized metal faintly thunders. The flashlight resting on it wobbles. Chigurh, gun leveled at the open door. Again, no movement. He advances into the room, gun pointing at the bathroom door. As he advances, he swings the gun briefly over at the closet door and fires. The splintered-in door reveals no occupant. Chigurh angles around the double bed to get a view of that wedge of the bathroom floor visible through its door. Blood is pooling from the right. Chigurh fires at the baseboard to the right of the door. Moss makes another attempt to hook the bag. The hook takes. Moss drags the case inches out of the duct's bend before the hook slides off again. Chigurh uses the shotgun barrel to push open what's left of the bathroom door. The mirror over the facing sink gives a view of most of the hidden side of the bedroom/bathroom party wall. Partial view of a man pressed against the wall, standing in the tub in the corner. From his posture and the one visible hand, he seems unarmed. Chigurh enters the bathroom. The cornered man is unhurt, but terrified. He holds up his hands. No me mate. The man on the floor is quite dead. A machine pistol lies in the outflung hand. Chigurh looks back up at the survivor. How'd you find it? No me mate. Chigurh walks unhurriedly to the tub. The man watches him, hands up, vibrating. Chigurh reaches with his free hand and pulls the shower curtain most of the way around, hiding the man. He angles the nose of the shotgun in and fires. The hook again snags a strap on the case. Moss pulls carefully. Chigurh emerges from the bathroom. His socks are sodden with gore. He sits on the bed and peels them off. He rubs the bottom of each foot with the ankle of each sock and drops the sock to the floor. He rises and opens 3 bureau doors, which are empty, and leaves them open. He pulls open what remains of the closet door, empty. He looks under the bed. He stands, looks around. He looks up. His look lingers. Close on the air duct grill. It is dusty. Rub marks have made 4 dark bands across the dusty slats. Chigurh's fingers rise into frame and meet the grill, roughly aligning with the finger marks in the dust. Close on a screw head, a dime enters and engages a screw and starts turning it. From inside the duct, fingers reach through the grill, and Chigurh's hand pushes it into the duct, then angles and withdraws it. Faintly, under the distant airy drone of the compressor, we hear the grate clatter to the floor. The back of Chigurh's head appears. He aims a flashlight away down the far length of the duct. A beat. He pivots to face us. His point of view. The length of the duct, empty, with a drag mark through the middle of the dust. Back to Chigurh. His look holds. He ducks out. In the room, Chigurh steps down from the chair and pulls the receiver from his pocket and turns it on. It beeps once. Silence. Frowning, looking down at the receiver, Chigurh makes a slow sweep with it. The silence holds. Snapped off by car. Steady, as we cut to station wagon at night. Moss, with his duffel bag and document case, sits in the passenger seat of an old station wagon. The driver is an elderly man in a yoked shirt. After a beat, eyes fixed on the road, the old man shakes his head. Shouldn't be doing that, even a young man like you. Moss gives him a look. A beat. Doing what? The old man gazes at the road. Hitchhiking. He shakes his head again. Silent driving. The old man murmurs. It's dangerous. We are looking out as a foreground building slips by, and we rise to get an ever higher perspective on downtown Houston, hazy under a noon sun. A man standing behind a large desk behind him, floor-to-ceiling windows, has no small talk for Carson Wells, the man entering. You know Anton Chigurh by sight, is that correct? Carson Wells sits in front of the desk, his manner affable. He rests a booted foot across one knee. Yes, sir, that's correct. I know him when I see him. When did you last see him? November 28th, last year. You seemed pretty sure of the date. Did I ask you to sit? No, sir, but you struck me as a man who wouldn't want to waste a chair. I remember dates, names, numbers. I saw him on November 28th. The man gazes. He nods. We got a loose cannon here. We're out of a bunch of money. The other party is out as product. Yes, sir, I understand that. The man looks at him appraising. He nods again and slides a bank card across the table. This account will only give up $1,200 in any 24-hour period. That's up from $1,000. Wells rises to take the card, then reseats himself. Yes, sir. If your expenses run higher, I hope you'll trust us for it. Okay. How well do you know Chigurh? Well enough. That's not an answer. What do you want to know? I'd just like to know your opinion of him, in general. Just how dangerous is he? Wells shrugs. Compared to what? The bubonic plague? It's bad enough that you called me. He's a psychopathic killer, but so what? There's plenty of them around. A beat. He killed 3 men in a hotel in Del Rio yesterday, and 2 others at that colossal goat fuck out in the desert. Okay, we can stop that. You seem pretty sure of yourself. You've led something of a charmed life, haven't you, Mr. Wells? Wells rises. In all honesty, I can't say that charm has had a whole lot to do with it. He thumps once at his chest. I'm wondering... Yes? Can I get my parking ticket validated? The man gazes. An attempt at humor, I suppose. I'm sorry. Goodbye, Mr. Wells. Moss is getting out of the station wagon with his duffel and document case. It is a town square. Among the old building is the Hotel Eagle. identified by a neon above the front door. Moss enters. Behind the front desk is an older man. He sits reading Ring magazine. He has a hand-rolled cigarette. 1 room, 1 night. That's $26. You on all night? Yes, sir. Be here till 10 tomorrow morning. Moss pushes 100 along with smaller bills across the desk. For you, I ain't asking you to do anything illegal. The clerk looks at the $100 bill without reaching. I'm waiting to hear your description of that. There's somebody looking for me, not police. Just call me if anyone else checks in tonight. Moss is mounting the stairs from the lobby. The carpeted hallway is lined by transom-topped doors. Moss goes to a door halfway down on his left. Moss enters a room with old oak furniture and high ceilings. He sets the document case next to the bed. He unzips the duffel and takes out the shotgun, which he lays on the bed, then goes to the window. He parts the curtain to look down. The street is empty. Mexican music floats up faintly from a bar somewhere not far away. Hotel room, later. The room is dark. The music is gone. We are looking straight down on Moss, lying, clothed, on the bed. We are booming straight down toward him. After a beat, he shakes his head. He opens his eyes, grimacing. There just ain't no way. He sits up and turns on the bedside lamp. The shotgun and the document case are on the floor by the bed. Moss swings the document case onto the bed and unclasps it and upends the money onto the bed. He feels the bottom of the case, squeezing it with one hand inside and one hand out, looking for a false bottom. He eyeballs the case, turning it over and over. He starts riffling money packets. He finds one that binds. It has hundreds on the outside, but one's inside with the centers cut out. In the hollow is a sending unit the size of a Zippo lighter. He holds the sender, staring at it. A long beat. From somewhere, a dull chug. The sound is hard to read. A compressor going on, a door thud, maybe something else. The sound has brought Moss's look up. He sits listening. No further sound. Moss reaches to uncradle the rotary phone by the bed. He dials 0. We hear ringing filtered through the headset. Also, faintly offset, we hear the ring directly from downstairs. After 5 rings, Moss cradles the phone. He goes to the door, reaches for the knob, but hesitates. He gets down on his hands and knees and listens at the crack under the door. An open, airy sound, like a seashell put to your ear. Moss rises and turns to the bed. He piles the money back into the document case, but freezes suddenly, for no reason we can see. A long beat on his motionless back. We gradually become more aware of a faint, high-frequency beeping, barely audible. Its source is indeterminate. Moss clasps the document case, picks up his shotgun, and eases himself to a sitting position on the bed, facing the door. He looks at the line of light under it. The beeps approach, though still not loud. A long wait. At length, a soft shadow appears in the line of light below the door. It lingers there. The beeping stops. A beat. Now the soft shadow becomes more focused. It resolves into 2 columns of dark, feet planted before the door. Moss raises his shotgun towards the door. A long beat. Moss adjusts the grip on the shotgun and his finger tightens on the trigger. The shadow moves unhurriedly rightward. The band of light beneath the door is once again unshadowed. Quiet. Moss stares. The band of light under the door. Moss stares. Silently, the light goes out. Something for Moss to think about. He stares. The hallway behind the door is now dark. The door is defined only from his side by streetlight spill through the window. Moss stares. He shifts, start to rise, but doesn't. A beat. A report, not a gunshot, but a stamping sound, followed by a pneumatic hiss. It brings a dull impact, and Moss recoils, hit. He winces, feeling his chest. The door is shuddering creakily in. It is all strange. Moss gropes in his lap and picks up something. The lock cylinder. The creaking door comes to a rest ajar. Moss fires. The shotgun blast roars in the confined space and for an instant turns the room orange. The chewed-up door wobbles back against the jamb and creakily bounces in again. Moss has already risen and is hoisting the document case. Moss finishes draping his gun by its strap across his back and climbs out on the ledge with the document case. He swings the document case out and drops it. The bracketing for the hotel sign gives Moss a handhold. He grabs it as inside the room the door is kicked open. Moss swings down as with a muted thump, orange muzzle flash strobes the room. Moss drops. Moss lands and grabs the document case and straightens. He is at the hotel entrance, standing in the light coming through the etched glass of the double doors. He looks at his own shadow thrown on the street. He plunges through the door into the lobby as a gun thumps and crackling shot chews the sidewalk. Moss hurries across the lobby. A glance to one side. A booted foot sticks out from behind the front desk. Moss slowly approaches the stairway. He risks a look around the stairway wall. Ascending balusters fade off into the blackness of the second-story hallway. Moss sags. He looks back across the lobby at the front door. He unhitches his shotgun. He remains still for a moment holding the shotgun, back against the protected side of the wall. He quickly swings out and with the shotgun aimed up the stairs, he crosses to the back lobby. He quietly pushes open the back door. Moss emerges into a shallow service alley, dark and dirty. He is at a run when we hear a soft talk and a garbage can in front of him snaps and wobbles. He turns looking up, backpedaling. Another talk accompanies a muzzle flash in a dark second-story window. Moss fires his shotgun loudly. Chips fly off the brick face and the window shatters. Moss rounds the alley corner. He stops and squats. Wide, dark, deserted downtown Eagle Pass. Moss a lone figure resting at a corner. Clothes on Moss panting. He takes stock, painfully feeling at his upper chest where the lock hit, then touching gingerly at his side beneath his ribs, newly bloody. He sighs. He listens. No noise. He gets to his feet with a document case in one hand and shotgun in the other. He waits a beat, back against the wall. He swings out and fires the shotgun into the alley, then spins back and runs a short block and rounds the next corner and stops to rest. Moss waits for his breath to slow. He brings up the shotgun and readies himself. He swings out to look around the corner. The street is empty. He waits, at the ready for whatever might emerge from the alley mouth a short block away. Long beat. Stillness. A panicky thought brings his look and the shotgun swinging back around. The man could round the block the other way. Empty street. 2 empty streets. Moss doesn't know which way to cover, which way to go. He stands looking each way, trying to devise a plan. No basis for a plan. Quiet hesitation. Now a sound. Engine noise. An old pickup rounds a corner 2 blocks up. It rattles toward him. Moss lowers the shotgun. He keeps it to the hidden side of his body. The pickup dutifully stops at a flashing red traffic light. It comes on through the intersection. Moss strides out into the street. He swings the shotgun up and gives the driver a raised palm to halt. The truck stops and Moss opens the passenger door and swings the case in and climbs in after. The driver, an older man, gapes at him frightened. "I'm not going to hurt you. I need you to—" The windshield stars. A second round pushes part of the windshield in. Rounds come in without pause, cracking sheet metal, blowing the cab's rear window into the truck bed, twisting the rear view. A round seems to have caught the driver in the throat, a gurgling scream as he claws at his windpipe, blowing out blood. Moss, quick to react, has already ducked below the dash. A snap of the driver's head and a new freshet of blood comes from her shot to the head. The scream turns to low gurgles. Moss, jammed almost into the driver's lap, frantically gropes for the shift. He throws the pickup into drive and stamps at the accelerator, driving blind as bullets continue to pour in. He raises his head enough to see his side view. It shows slewing, bouncing, empty street. Rough guide for steering. A tremendous jounce onto the curb and then off it, the driver's body swaying in its restraint. The passenger side window shatters. We are passing the gunman. Now Moss sits up to steer, looking out front. Behind him, through the shot-out back window, the dark street is suddenly punctured by muzzle flash. It comes for the first time with a report. The low chug of a muted shotgun. Rattle of shot against sheet metal. Moss floors the gas to roar into a turn. The street sweeping out of view behind him produces one more chugging muzzle flash. The pickup bounces, but Moss, sitting fully up, can now steer. He goes half the length of the block, then yanks the wheel hard, braking. The pickup smashes a parked car and jacks around to a halt. Moss emerges from the pickup with his shotgun and goes to the sidewalk and backtracks. He covers behind the parked car. He sits leaning back against the car, waiting. From his point of view, his own reflection in the facing storefront, a lot of the driver's blood on him. He sinks lower. A long beat. Footsteps. They approach without hurry. A gritty boot turning at the corner. The footsteps come closer still. They pass and recede toward the pickup. We cut to Chigurh approaching the pickup, shotgun held at ease across his body. He slows. He hears the slowing steps. He tightens his grip on his shotgun and tenses. Chigurh slowly further, he sees bloody boot prints outside the passenger door. Moss rises. Chigurh is turning. He dives as behind him Moss fires. Shots peppered two parked cars, the one Moss rammed and the one behind. Chigurh dived between them, hit or not. Moss advances down the middle of the street. He angles his head. Anything under the cars? He fires twice. Buckshot claws up the pavement and the car bodies and tires, and the cars sink, hissing to their rims. Moss crosses to the far curb, still advancing. No one behind the cars. He looks up and down the street. Nothing to see. He goes to the pickup truck, driver's side. He opens the door and reaches over the driver's corpse for his lap belt. Deserted. The pickup truck rattles into frame. Moss emerges. He hoists out the case. He leaves the shotgun. It is very quiet. He looks around. The Rio Grande Bridge. Moss walks unsteadily towards it, pressing his free hand to his side. A thought stops him. He turns. His bloody boot prints point at him like comic book clues. His shoulders sag. Minutes later, Moss heads down the right-hand walkway in stockinged feet, boots tucked into his belt. He turns and looks back towards the U.S. side. Empty walkway. He proceeds on. 3 youth are approaching from the Mexican side. Fart types. They are laughing and walking unsteadily. As they approach, they gape at Moss covered with blood. The lead boy, holding a beer, wears a light coat. "I'll give you $500 for your shirt and your coat." The 3 boys stare at him, at length. "Let's see your money." Moss unpeels bills from a moist wad. The top one is bloody. "Were you in a car accident?" "Yeah." "Okay, let me have the money." "It's right here. Give me the coat." "Let me hold the money." Moss does. "Give me the clothes." Youth starts to peel them. "And let me have your beer." "How much?" "Brian, give him the beer." The boys are receding. Moss pours the beer over his head, rubbing blood away. He opens his shirt. He inspects the wounds in his midriff entrance and exit. Pulsing, blood laps weakly out. He shrugs off his shirt, wraps it around his waist, and knots it. He starts to put on a new shirt. Something stops him. He pauses, and then he vomits into the roadbed. He straightens slowly and puts on the new shirt. He looks out. He is not yet over the river. Wind stirs the cane on the bank. He looks up. Chain-link fence encloses the walkway to a height of 12 feet, curling inward at the top. He looks down the walkway. The 3 boys are distant figures. He looks up the walkway. A few paces up a light pole, Strachan stands flush to the guardrail that separates road and highway. He goes to the stanchion and uses it to hoist himself onto the guardrail, his free hand holding the case. Standing on top of the curved metal rail and holding the post for balance, he knee bends down and up and heaves the case. It sails clear of the chain-link fence. A short beat, and we hear a thump. Moss pants for a moment, recovering from the strain of the toss. He eases himself off the guardrail and goes to the fence, looks at the bank below. One gnarled tree stands out in the cane. The case, however, is not visible. There's a lighted guard shack at the end of the walkway. Inside, a uniformed guard. Moss walks unsteadily up. He tilts the beer bottle in salute at the guard. The guard impassively lets him proceed. In black, an insanely cheerful mariachi song. Fade in on the mariachis. We're looking steeply up at them, Dutch angled. They beam down at us, energetically thumping their oversized guitars and bajo sextos. We boom woozily up and start to undutch. Reverse on Moss struggling to a sitting position on the park bench where he'd been lying, a public square. Back to the mariachis, beaming, singing. Their smiles gradually fade. The playing falls off to silence. In the silence, birds chirp. The musicians are looking quizzically down. Moss's arm swings up on the foreground, extending a bloody $100 bill. On Moss, his coat has swung open to expose his bloody midriff. His look is glazed. Doctor. The mariachis stare. Moss waggles the bill. Medico, por favor. We are close on a patch of the front seat of a Ram Charger. Daytime. The pickup is parked. The piece of upholstery we are looking at has blood soaked into it. On the sound of the door opening, we cut wider. We are in the parking lot of a Walmart. Chigurh, climbing in, tosses a brown paper bag onto the passenger side. He has a dark towel wrapped around one leg. As he slides behind the wheel, the wrapped part of his leg slides over the bloodstain. Small town Main Street. We are driving past a pharmacy. Chigurh looking. He parks. He takes a scissors out from the Walmart bag and a box of cotton. He opens the box and cuts a little disc out of the cardboard. He takes a new shirt out of the bag and begins to cut through one sleeve. Chigurh limps towards us. He holds a coat hanger bent straight with a balled-up shirt sleeve hooked at one end. Chigurh arrives down the street. He unscrews the gas cap, feeds the coat hanger in to soak the shirt, and pulls it back out. He tapes the cardboard disc over the open gas tank. He unhooks the wet shirt sleeve and jams it up over the disc. He lights it and exits. Inside the pharmacy. A beat pulling Chigurh limping up the aisle, and then the car explodes out front. The plate glass storefront blows in. A few people inside rush out. Chigurh doesn't react. The pharmacy counter in back is deserted. Chigurh lifts a hinged piece of counter to enter and starts looking through the stock. He pulls out a package of syringes, hydrocone tablets, penicillin. Chigurh dumps the pharmaceuticals into the bathroom sink, in a motel. In the room outside, he sits on the bed and takes off his boots. He unknots the towel from around his leg and stands and unbuttons his pants and starts cutting from the crotch down with heavy scissors. One thigh is a mess of clotted blood and torn fabric. Chigurh lowers himself into bathwater, then quickly turns pink. He laves water over his bloody thigh. There is a dark red hole, 1/2 inch across, pulsing blood into the bath water. Torn pieces of fabric from his pants are embedded in the bleeding skin. We are looking at the wound in a magnifying mirror. Forceps enter and pluck a tiny piece of blood-soaked fabric from the skin. Running water, a bathroom tap. The forceps enter. They are rinsed, shaken off. Wider, Chigurh sits on the closed toilet, with the mirror sitting on the edge of the tub angled towards the wound. Chigurh works on cleaning it. The main room. The TV is now on. Chigurh enters from the bathroom with his leg bandaged. He sits on the bed and tears open the packaging of a syringe. He plunges it into an ampule of penicillin. He injects himself. We find ourselves in the sheriff's office during the day. Sheriff Bell sits writing in a large leatherette checkbook. He projects. "Anything on those vehicles yet?" A raised female voice from the front office. "Sheriff, I found out everything there was to find. Those vehicles are titled and registered to deceased people." Molly, the secretary, appears at the doorway. "The owner of that Blazer died 20 years ago. Do you want me to see what I can find out about the Mexican ones?" "No. Lord, no." He holds out the checkbook. "This month's checks." "That DEA agent called again. You don't want to talk to him?" "I'm going to try and keep from it as much as I can." "He's going back out there and he wanted to know if you wanted to go with him." Sheriff Bell is putting things away. "Well, that's cordial of him. I guess he can go wherever he wants. He's a certified agent of the United States government." He rises. "Could I get you to call Loretta and tell her I've gone to Odessa? I'm going to visit with Carla Jean Moss." "Yes, Sheriff." "I'll call Loretta when I get there. I'd call now, but she'll want me to come home, and I just might." "You want me to wait till you've quit the building?" "Yes, I do. You don't want to lie without what it's absolutely necessary." Molly trails him into the front office. "What is that Torbert says about truth and justice?" "We dedicate ourselves daily anew," something like that. "I think I'm going to commence dedicating myself twice daily. May come 3 times before it's over." A loud truck by the street outside. Sheriff Bell's eyes track the passing vehicle. The hell? Sanderson outskirts. Sheriff Bell passes a flatbed truck with a flapping tarp and briefly blurps his siren to pull it over. He parks on the shoulder in front of the truck and then walks back to the driver, who watches his approach, chewing gum with blithe unconcern. "Sheriff, have you looked at your load lately?" A minute later, both men are at the back of the truck. "It's a damned outrage." "Oh, one of the tie-downs worked loose." Bell whips the tarp back to expose 8 corpses wrapped blue sheeting bound with tape. "How many did you leave with?" The driver is still smiling. I ain't lost none of 'em, Sheriff." "Couldn't you all have took the van out there?" "Didn't have no van with 4-wheel drive." Sheriff Bell pulls the tarp down and ties it. The driver watches without helping. "Gonna write me up for improperly secured load." Sheriff Bell cinches the knot tight. "You get your ass out here." Moss, in a hospital room, in bed, stirs at an off. "I'm guessing this is not the future you pictured for yourself when you first clapped eyes on that money." Moss blearily focuses on a fancy crocodile boot. His look rises from the boot, crossed on his visitor's knee, up to the man's face. Carson Wells smiles at him from the bedside chair. "Don't worry, I'm not the man that's after you." "I know, I've seen him, sort of." Wells is surprised. "You've seen him and you're not dead." He nods, impressed. "But that won't last. What is he supposed to be, the ultimate badass?" "I don't think that's how I would describe him." "How would you describe him?" "I guess I'd say he doesn't have a sense of humor. His name is Chigurh." "Sugar?" "Chigurh. Anton Chigurh. You know how he found you?" "I know how he found me. It's called a transponder." "I know what it is. He won't find me again." "Not that way." "Not any way." "Took me about 3 hours. I've been immobile." "No, you don't understand." Wells sits back and studies Moss. What do you do?" "I'm retired." "What do you do?" "I'm a welder." "Acetylene, MIG, TIG?" "Any of it. If it can be welded, I can weld it." "Cast iron?" "Yes." "I don't mean braze." "I didn't say braze." "Pot metal?" "What did I say?" "Were you in Nam?" "Yeah, I was in Nam." "So was I. So what does that make me, your buddy?" Wells sits smiling at him, a beat. Look, you need to give me the money. I've got no other reason to protect you. Too late. I spent it. About $1.5 million on whores and whiskey, and the rest of it I just sort of blew it in. Wells' smile stays in place. How do you know he's not on his way to Odessa? Moss stares at him. A beat. Why would he go to Odessa? To kill your wife? Another beat. Maybe he should be worried. About me. He isn't. You're not cut out for this. You're just a guy that happened to find those vehicles. Moss doesn't respond. You didn't take the product, did you? What product? The heroin. You don't have it? No, I don't have it. No, you don't. He rises. I'm across the river at the Hotel Eagle. Carson Wells. Call me when you've had enough. I can even let you keep a little of the money. If I was cutting deals, why wouldn't I go deal with this guy Chigurh? No, you don't understand. You can't make a deal with him. Even if you give him the money, he'll still kill you. He's a peculiar man. Could even say that he has principles. Principles that transcend money or drugs or anything like that. He's not like you. He's not even like me. He don't talk as much as you. I give him points for that. Sheriff Bell rises from a booth in a coffee shop, taking off his hat. Carla Jean, I thank you for coming. He sits. She sits. Don't know why I did. I told you I don't know where he is. You ain't heard from him? No, I ain't. Nothing? Not one word. Would you tell me if he had? Well, I don't know. He don't need any trouble from you. It's not me he's in trouble with. Who is he in trouble with? Some bad people. Llewellyn can take care of himself. These people will kill him, Carla Jean. They won't quit. He won't neither. He never has. I wish I could say that it was in his favor, but I have to say I don't think it is. He can take all comers. Belle looks at her after a beat. You know Charlie Walser has the place east of Sanderson? She shakes her head and shrugs. Well, you know how they used to be slaughter beeves, hit 'em with a maul right here to stun 'em? Indicates between his eyes. And then truss 'em up and slit their throats. Well, here Charlie has one trussed up and all set to drain him, and the beef comes too. It starts thrashing around, 600 pounds of very pissed-off livestock, if you pardon my... Charlie grabs his gun. They're about to shoot the damn thing in the head, but with the swinging and twisting, it's a glance shot, and ricochets comes and hits Charlie in the shoulder. You go see Charlie, he can't reach up with his right hand for his hat. Point being, even in the contest between man and cow, the issue is not certain. He takes a sip of coffee, leaving room for Carla Jean to argue if inclined. She does not. Sheriff Bell hands a card across. When Llewellyn calls, just tell him I can make him safe. She takes the card. Sheriff Bell sips. Course they slaughter beeves different now. Use a air gun. Shoots out a rod about this far into the brain. He holds thumb and forefinger a couple inches apart. Sucks back in. Animal never knows what hit him. Another beat. Carla Jean stares at him. Why are you telling me that, Sheriff? I don't know, my mind wanders. Later that day, Rio Grande Bridge. Carson Wells grabs a light pole stanchion to hoist himself onto the guardrail. He stands atop it, eyeing the chain-link fence across the walkway. He climbs down and crosses to the fence and looks down. The brown, sluggish water of the Rio Grande. Carson Wells enters the frame and recedes down the walkway. When he draws even with the next stanchion, he looks down through the fence. Cane on the riverbank and one gnarled tree. Twilight. Carson Wells enters the hotel and crosses the lobby. Carson Wells appears around the corner and we pull him as he mounts the stairs. When he is about halfway up, a figure, focus does not hold him, rounds the corner behind him and silently follows, holding a fat-barreled shotgun loosely at his side. After a few steps, Carson Wells stops, frowning, cued by we don't know what. Focus drops back as he turns. Chigurh raises the shotgun. Hello, Carson. Let's go to your room. Chigurh sits into a chair, drawn up to face the armchair where Carson Wells sits. We don't have to do this. I'm a day trader. I could just go home. Why would I let you do that? I know where the money is. If you knew, you would have it with you. I need dark to get it. I know where it is. I know something better. What's that? I know where it's going to be. And where's that? It will be brought to me and placed at my feet. Wells wipes his mouth with his hand. You don't know to be a certainty. 20 minutes it could be here. I do know to a certainty, and you know what's going to happen now? You should admit your situation. There would be more dignity in it. You go to hell. A beat. Let me ask you something. If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule? Another beat. Do you have any idea how goddamn crazy you are? You mean the nature of this conversation? I mean the nature of you. Chigurh looks at him equably. Wells holds his look. You can have the money, Anton. The money rings. Wells looks at the phone. Chigurh hasn't moved. Wells looks at Chigurh, waiting for a decision. The low chug of the shotgun. Aside from his finger on the trigger, Chigurh hasn't moved. He sits staring at Wells, remained for a beat. Now his look swings onto the phone. He watches it ring twice more. He picks it up and listens without speaking. After a beat. Hello? Yes. Is Carson Wells there? A longer beat. Not in the sense that you mean. Moss doesn't answer. Chigurh gives him a beat and then, you need to come see me. We intercut Moss in his hospital robe at a phone in the ward. He stands tensed with the phone to his ear. Finally, who is this? You know who it is. A beat. You need to talk to me. I don't need to talk to you. I think that you do. You know where I'm going? Why would I care where you're going? Do you know where I'm going? No answer. Chigurh cocks his head, noticing something on the floor. He adjusts to sit back and raise his boots onto the bed. On the floor where his feet were, blood is pooling out from Wells' chair. I know where you are. Yeah, where am I? You're in the hospital across the river. But that's not where I'm going. Do you know where I'm going? Yeah, I know where you're going. All right. You know she won't be there. Doesn't make any difference where she is. So what are you going up there for? You know how this is going to turn out, don't you? No. Do you? Yes, I do. I think you do too. So this is what I'll offer. You bring me the money, I'll let her go. Otherwise, she's accountable. The same as you. That's the best deal you're gonna get. I won't tell you you can save yourself because you can't. Yeah, I'm gonna bring you something all right. I've decided to make you a little special project of mine. You ain't gonna have to look for me at all. Moss slams the phone onto its hook, then slams it twice more for good measure. Chigurh in the hotel room cradles his phone. Sheriff Bell sits at his usual booth, but with an unaccustomed look. Reading glasses. He's been looking at a newspaper, but is now peering over his glasses up at Wendell, who apparently interrupted his reading. The motel in Del Rio? Wendell nods. Yes, sir. None of them had ID on them, but they're telling me all three is Mexicans. Was Mexicans. There is a question, whether they stopped being, and when. Yes, sir. Now, Wendell, did you inquire about the cylinder lock? Yes, sir. It was punched out. Okay. You gonna drive there now? No, that's the only thing I would have looked for. Sounds like these boys died of natural causes. How's that? Natural to the line of work they was in. Yes, sir. My lord, Wendell, it's just all-out war. I don't know any other word for it. Who are these folks? I don't know. He rattles the paper. Here, last week, they found this couple out in California. They had rent out rooms to old people, and they killed them and buried them in the yard and cashed their Social Security checks. They torture them there first. I don't know why. Maybe their television set was broke, and this went on until, and here I quote. He looks through his glasses at the paper. Neighbors were alerted when a man ran from the premises wearing only a dog collar. You can't make up such a thing as that. I dare you to even try. He peers over his glasses at Wendell, who respectfully shakes his head and tisks. Sheriff Bell rattles the paper again. But that's what it took, you'll notice. Get someone's attention. Digging graves in the backyard didn't bring any. Wendell bites back a smile. Sheriff Bell gazes at him over his glasses for a long beat. Deadpan. That's all right. I laugh myself sometimes. He goes back to the paper. There ain't a whole lot else you can do. Moss, a coat thrown over his hospital robe, is standing before a uniformed INS officer on the Rio Grande Bridge. The official, who looks like a Marine drill instructor, is chewing. He chews for a long beat, staring at Moss. He finally spits tobacco juice and pats his lower lip with a handkerchief. Who do you think gets through this gate into the United States of America? I don't know. American citizens? Some American citizens. Who do you think decides? You do, I reckon. That is correct. And how do I decide? I don't know. I ask questions. If I get sensible answers, then they get to go to America. If I don't get sensible answers, then they don't. Is there anything about that you don't understand? No, sir. Then I ask you again, how you come to be here with no clothes? I got an overcoat on. Are you jacking with me? No, sir. Don't jack with me. Yes, sir. Are you in the service? No, sir, I'm a veteran. Nam? Yes, sir, 2 tours. What outfit? 12th Infantry Battalion, August 7th, 1966 to July 2nd, 1968. The official stares at him, chewing, sour. Well sent. Yes, sir. Get someone to help this man. He needs to get into town. The clerk who earlier sold him the boots. How those Larrys holding up? Moss is walking up in his boots and overcoat and a hospital robe. Good. I need everything else. Okay. You got a lot of people coming here with no clothes on? No, sir. It's unusual. We're looking across the Rio Grande. Moss appears over the near edge of the riverbank, newly clothed and holding the document case. As he reaches the top of the bank, he frowns and twists his neck, responding to an irritation. He feels around with his free hand inside the back of the shirt collar. A sharp yank. His hand comes away with a small tag. The document case is resting on a small foreground counter in a Greyhound station. Moss is at a payphone, one hand holding the phone to his ear, the other resting on the case. The voice on the phone is old, female, querulous. She don't want to talk to you. Yes, she does. Put her on. Do you know what time it is? I don't care what time it is. Don't you hang up this phone. I told her what's going to happen, didn't I? Chapter and verse. I said, this is what'll come to pass, and now it has come to pass. Scuffing sounds. A sharp Mama, and then into the phone. Llewellyn? Hey, what should I do? You know what's going on? I don't know. I had the sheriff here from Terrell County. What did you tell him? What did I know to tell him? You're hurt, ain't you? What makes you say that? I can hear it in your voice. There is a falseness in his voice. Meet me at the Heart of Texas Motel in El Paso. I'm going to give you the money, and I'll put you on a plane. Llewellyn, I ain't going to leave you in the lurch. No, this works better. With you gone, and I don't have the money, he can't touch me, but I sure can touch him. After I find him, I'll come and I'll join you. Find who? What am I supposed to do with Mother? She'll be all right. She'll be all right? Be all right? I've got the cancer. I don't think anybody'll bother her. An office hallway during the day. A locked cylinder blows in. The hole shows a brightly lit cinder block wall behind. The door swings open, and the air tank is swung in and deposited on carpet. Chigurh enters the carpeted hallway from the cinderblock stairwell, holding the tricked-out shotgun. The hallway is white wallboard, doors opening off it at long intervals. Chigurh stands still and listens. Nothing but the hum of ventilation. He walks quietly to one open door 20 feet away. He enters. The man who hired Carson Wells is behind his desk, in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. He looks up from papers, slipping off his reading glasses. On seeing the shotgun, he opens a desk drawer and starts to rise. Chung. The shotgun blast knocks him back. Shots pit, but doesn't break the window. A man in a suit rises and turns from the chair opposite the desk very slowly, as if to advertise that he is not a threat. Chigurh ignores him and rounds the desk to look at the man gurgling on the floor. After a beat, still looking down at the man he has shot. "Who are you?" "Me?" "Yes." "Nobody. Accounting." Chigurh finally looks up at him. "You gave Acosta's people a receiver?" He felt the more people looking." "That's foolish. You picked the one right tool." Chigurh inclines his head towards the pocked glass of the picture window. "For instance, I used burst shot, so as to not blow the window." "I see." He still has not moved, one hand still touching the armrest. "Are you going to shoot me?" Chigurh looks at him. "That depends. Do you see me?" The man stares at him for a beat. "No." Eyes in a weathered face shift back and forth between road and mirror, where they give nodding acknowledgment to the passenger. "And I always seen that this is what it would come to. 3 years ago I previsioned it." Wider shows Carla Jean and her mother in the back of a moving cab. "It ain't even 3 years we've been married. 3 years ago I said them very words, no and good." "Yes, ma'am." "Now here we are, 90-degree heat. I've got the cancer, and look at this, not even a home to go to." "Yes, ma'am." "We're going to El Paso, Texas. You know how many people I know in El Paso, Texas?" "No, ma'am." She holds up a thumb and a forefinger curled to make a 0. "That's how many. 90-degree heat." The cab is stopped outside the depot. Carla Jean and her mother and the driver are at the trunk, struggling over bags. "I got it, Mama." "I didn't see my prednisone." "I put it in, Mama." "Well, I didn't see it." "Well, I put it in. That one. You just sit there. I'll get tickets and a cart for the bags." As Carla Jean goes to the station, a man emerges from a car and pulls up behind. He's a well-dressed Mexican of early middle age. "Do you need help with the bags, madam?" "Well, thank God there's at least one gentleman left in West Texas. Yes, thank you. I am old and not well." "Which bus are you taking?" "We're going to El Paso. Don't ask me why. Discombobulated by a no-account son-in-law, thank you." "You don't often see a Mexican in a suit." "You going to El Paso?" "I know it. Where are you staying?" Carla Jean is at a phone booth. After a short wait, a pickup and a filtered, "Carla Jean, where are you?" "Sheriff, was that a true story about Charlie Walser?" "Who's Charlie Walser?" "Oh, well, true story. Couldn't swear to every detail, but it's certain true that it is a story." "Yeah, right, Sheriff. Can you give me your word on something?" We intercut Sheriff Bell in his office. "Yes, ma'am." "If I tell you where Llewellyn's headed, you promise it'll be just you goes and talks with him, you and nobody else?" "Yes, ma'am, I do." "Llewellyn never would ask for help. He never thinks he needs any." "Carla Jean, I will not harm your man, and he needs help whether he knows it or not." A driving point of view approaching Chigurh, who leans against his Ram Charger, its hood up, stopped on the shoulder on the opposite side of the road. Reverse shows a man in an El Camino. Chickens in stacked cages squawk and flutter in the bed. The man slows and rolls his windows down to lean out. "What's the problem there, neighbor?" The man has pulled his vehicle over nose to nose with Chigurh's. He's rummaging in the car between the seat. His voice comes out muffled. "Yeah, that'll suck some power. Over time." "You from around here?" The man emerges with jumper cables. Alpine, born and bred. Here you go. He hands one pair of leads to Chigurh. What airport do you use? Airport or airstrip? Airport. Well, where are you going? I don't know. Just lighting out for the territories, huh? Brother, I've been there. Well, he takes off his hat and draws a sleeve across his brow, thinking. There's airstrips. He turns with his pair of leads, clamps them onto his battery. On his back. The airport is El Paso. You want some place specific? You could be better off driving to Dallas, not having to connect. He turns back to face Chigurh, who stands there, still holding his pair of leads. You gonna clamp them, buddy? Chigurh is looking at him blandly. Can you get those chicken crates out of the bed? The man stares at him. What are you talking about? Coin slot. Quarters are being fed in. Wider as Chigurh unholsters the wand at a self-service car wash. He sprays the spatter-pattern, rust-colored stains off the roof of the cab of the El Camino. Water drums as he sprays chicken feathers out of the bed. Moss is turning the key in his room door, a new vinyl gun bag slung over his shoulder. At the cut, the roar of a plane climbing overhead recedes. Out of it, a voice. Hey, Mr. Sporting Goods. Moss looks. A woman sunbathes at the central court swimming pool. A lot of hard light. Hey, yourself. The woman is pretty in a Roadhouse veteran sort of way. Her voice carries a flat echo, slapping off the surface of the pool. You a sport? Moss slings the bag into the room onto the bed and then turns and leans against the veranda post. That's me. I got beers in my room. Moss holds up his left hand to show the ring. Waiting for my wife. Oh, that's who you keep looking out the window for. Half. What else then? Looking for what's coming. Yeah, but no one ever sees that. I like a man that'll tell you he's married. Then you'll like me. I do like you. A beat. Lapping water. Beer, that's what's coming. I'll bring the ice chest out here. You can stay married. Building jet roar from another climbing plane. Ma'am, I know what beer leads to. The woman laughs. Before, the plane overwhelms it. Beer leads to more beer. Sheriff Bell is driving. As he drives, he refers to one side of the road, a commercial strip, looking for something. We hear the fading roar of a large airplane. The talk of distant gunfire brings his look around. A beat, another talk. The chatter of machine gun fire, another single shot. Sheriff Bell stamps the accelerator and hits his siren. Motel Street. Point of view racing towards the motel. A pickup with a rack of roof lights roars out. Tires squeal, machine gun chatter, and dog barks. The truck turns towards us, then slews around and speeds away, fishtailing. Point of view turning into the central court. A man is crawling on his belly along the veranda towards the street. Sheriff Bell skids to a halt and gets out. He hears screams and a child crying. Sheriff Bell jogs towards the crawling man, one hand on his holstered gun. Behind the man on the veranda is his abandoned machine pistol. He's a Mexican in a Guayabera. Sheriff Bell yells in a scared face in a cracked door. Call police! He's still jogging, a glance to the side. Rough point of view of a woman's body, belly down at the lip of the pool, head and torso in the water. Rough point of view forward, an open room door. Booted feet stick out. Sheriff Bell arrives. Moss is face up, mostly inside the room. The new gun bag is next to him. The gun is in hand. He is still. Voices. Sheriff Bell glances off. Call your local law enforcement. I'm not on their radio. Night. The entrance is blocked by police vehicles. People stand around in knots. Sheriff Bell is talking to the local sheriff. A door slam attracts his look. Carla Jean has gotten out of the far side of the cab. On the near side, the driver is leaning in to help her mother out. After a couple of rocking attempts, she has enough inertia to come to her feet outside the vehicle. Carla Jean is advancing slowly towards Sheriff Bell, taking in the scene. Sheriff Bell steps towards her. Her eyes track his hand as he raises it to his hat. He takes it off. Carla Jean, no. Looking down a long corridor flanked by a wall of stainless steel drawers. At the far end stands Bell, hat in hand, staring down into an open drawer just in front of him. A long beat. The local sheriff, Roscoe Giddens, stands smoking under the port cocher in front of the hospital. Sheriff Bell emerges from the building. A long beat. I don't know who she is. He puts his hat back on. I thought maybe she was with your boy there. No ID in the room? Not hardly nothing in her room. And that establishment was no stickler on registration. Well, the two men start walking. County'll bury her. Here lies female unknown. Her number was up. A walking beat. Buy you a cup of coffee before you drive home? Roscoe and Sheriff Bell face each other over coffee. No money in his room there. Couple $100 on his person. Those hombres would have taken the stash. I suppose, though they was leaving in a hurry. It's all the goddamn money, Ed Tom. The money and the drugs. It's just goddamn beyond everything. What does it mean? What is it leading to? Yes. If you had told me 20 years ago I'd see children walking the streets of our Texas towns with green hair and bones in their noses, I just flat out wouldn't have believed you. Signs and wonders. But I think once you stop hearing sir and madam, the rest is soon to follow. It's the tide. It's the dismal tide. It is not the one thing. Not the one thing. I used to think I could get at least some way put things right. Don't feel that way no more. I don't know what I do feel like. Try old on for size. Yes, sir, it may be that in a nutshell. The two men are walking out of the coffee shop. None of that explains your man, though. Uh-huh. He's just a goddamn homicidal lunatic, Ed Tom. I'm not sure he's a lunatic. Well, then what would you call him? I don't know. Sometimes I think he's pretty much a ghost. He's real, all right. Oh, yes. All that at the Eagle Hotel, it's beyond everything. Yes, he has some hard bark on him. That don't hardly say it at all. He shoots the desk clerk one day and walks right back in the next and shoots a retired Army colonel. They have reached Sheriff Bell's cruiser and he sits in. Hard to believe. Strolls right back into a crime scene. Who would do such a thing? How do you defend against it? Roscoe closes the door for Sheriff Bell. Good trip, Ed Tom. Sorry we couldn't help your boy. He's walking away. Sheriff Bell sits thinking in the cruiser. He makes no move for the ignition. A long beat. Now very late at the motel, empty of onlookers and emergency vehicles. Sheriff Bell's cruiser pulls up just inside the courtyard. He cuts the engine. Sheriff Bell sits looking at the motel. Very quiet. After a long beat, he gets out of the car. He pushes its door shut quietly with two hands. He looks up at the veranda. The one door, most of the way up, has yellow tape across it. Its loose ends wave in a light breeze. Sheriff Bell looks up the street. Nothing much to attract his attention. Sheriff Bell steps up onto the veranda. He takes slow, quiet steps. We intercut his point of view, nearing the door marked by police tape. As he draws close to the door, he slows. The yellow tape is about chest high. Above it is the lock cylinder. It has been punched hollow. Sheriff Bell stands staring at the lock. Very quiet. The chick-chick of the tape ends against the doorframe. Still. Inside, Chigurh is still also. Just on the other side of the door, he stands holding his shotgun. From inside, a tap of the breeze-blown tape is dulled but perceptible. It counts out beats. Chigurh also looks at the lock cylinder. The curved brass of its hollow interior holds a reflection of the motel room exterior, lights and shapes. The curvature distorts to unrecognizability of what is reflected, but we see the color of Sheriff Bell's uniform. The reflection is very still, and then slow movement. Sheriff Bell finishes bringing his hand to his holstered gun. It rests there. Still once again. His point of view of the lock. The reflection from here, darker, is hard to read. Inside, Chigurh is still. Sheriff Bell, his hand on his holstered gun. His hand drops. He extends one booted toe. He nudges the door inward. As the lock cylinder slowly recedes, reflected shapes scramble inside it, and we slide up its curve. Before the door is fully open, we cut around. The door finishes creaking open. Sheriff Bell is a silhouette in the doorway. A still beat. At length, Sheriff Bell ducks under the chest-high police tape to enter. The worn carpet has a large dark stain that glistens near the door. Sheriff Bell steps over it, advancing slowly. The room is dimly lit shapes. There is a bathroom door in the depth of the room. Sheriff Bell advances towards it. He stops in front of it. He toes the door. It creaks open slowly. The bathroom, with no spill light from outside, is pitch black. Sheriff Bell reaches slowly up with one hand. He gropes at the inside of the wall. The light goes on. Bright, white tile. Sheriff Bell squints. A beat. He takes a step in. He looks at the small window. He looks at the window's swivel catch, locked. Sheriff Bell emerges from the bathroom. He sits heavily onto the bed. He looks around, not for anything in particular. His look catches something low just in front of him. A ventilation duct near the baseboard. Its opening exposed. Its grill lies on the floor before it. Sheriff Bell stares. At length he leans forward. He nudges the grill aside. On the floor, a couple of screws. A coin. A cat, licking itself on a plank floor, stiffened leg pointing out. It suddenly stops and looks up, ears perked. A frozen beat, then it bolts. The camera booms up to frame the barren West Texas landscape outside the window of his isolated cabin. A pickup truck is approaching, trailing dust. The cat re-enters frame outside, running across the rutted gravel in front of the house as the pickup slows. Ellis, an old man in a wheelchair, has one clouded eye. "Men back." Sheriff Bell enters. "How you know I was here?" "Who else'll be in your truck?" "You heard it?" "How's that?" You having fun with me?" "What gives you that idea? I seen one of the cats heard it." "But how'd you know it was mine?" "I deduced it once you walked in." Sheriff Bell stares at him. "How many of those things you got now?" "Cats? Several. Well, depends on what you mean by got. Some are half wild, and some are just outlaws." "How you been, Ellis?" "You looking at it. I gotta say, you look older." "I am older." "Got a letter from your wife. She writes pretty regularly, tells me the family news." "Don't know there was any." "She just told me you was quitting." "Sit down." Sheriff Bell lifts an electric percolator off the counter. "Want a cup?" "Predate it." "How fresh is this coffee?" "I generally make a fresh pot every week, even if there's some left over." Sheriff Bell pours some. "That man that you shot died in prison." "In Angola?" "Yeah." "What would you have done if he'd been released?" I don't know. Nothing. Wouldn't be no point to it." "I'm kindly surprised to hear you say that." "All the time you trying to get back what's been took from you, there's more going out the door. After a while, you just try and get a tourniquet on it." He taps a cigarette ash into a mason jar lid on the table in front of him. "Your granddad never asked me to sign on as deputy. I done that my own self. Loretta says you're quitting." "Yes, you've circled around." "How come you doing that?" "I don't know. I feel overmatched." "I always thought when I got older, God would sort of come into my life in some way. He didn't. I don't blame him. If I was him, I'd have the same opinion about me that he does." "You don't know what he thinks." "Yes, I do." I sent Uncle Mac's badge and his old thumbbuster to the Rangers for their museum there. Your daddy ever tell you how Uncle Mac came to his reward?" Sheriff Bell shrugs. "Shot down on his porch there in Hudspeth County. There was 7 or 8 of 'em come to the house, wanting this and wanting that. Mac went back in, got his shotgun, but they was way ahead of him. Shot him down in his own doorway. Aunt Ella run out and tried to stop the bleeding, him trying to get a hold of the shotgun again. They was just set there on their horses watching him die. Finally, one of them says something in Injun, and they all turned and left out. Well, Mac knew the score, even if Aunt Ella didn't. Shot through the left lung, and that was that, as they say." "When did he die?" 1909. "No, I mean, was it right away, or in the night, or when was it?" "Believe it was the night. She buried him the next morning, digging in that hard caliche." "What you got ain't nothing new. This country's hard on people. Hard and crazy. Got the devil in it, yet folks never seem to hold it to account." "Most don't." "You're discouraged." "I'm discouraged." "You can't stop what's coming. Ain't all waiting on you." The 2 men look at each other. Ellis shakes his head. "That's vanity." After a beat, a fast fade. In black, we hear the chink, chink, chink of chain being played out and the hum of a motor. Gravesite. We cut to a dark foreground shape being lowered in sync with the clinking sound. As it drops, it clears a tombstone progressively revealed. The name, Agnes Crakick. Her dates, 1922 to 1980. The inscription, Beloved Mother. Off that, we cut to Carla Jean, standing by in a black dress and a dark veil. We see a small suburban house with a parched square of grass in front. A rusty station wagon pulls into the driveway and stops. Carla Jean gets out. Carla Jean enters the kitchen and puts on the kettle. She opens the cupboard looking for something. Carla Jean sits at the kitchen table drinking tea. She looks out the window. Across the street are kids running through a sprinkler that chugs in the yard. The door opens, and Carla Jean enters holding her hat and veil. She throws the light switch and stops, hand frozen, looking into the room. "I knew this wasn't done with." Chigurh sits at the far end of the room in the late afternoon shadows. "No, I ain't got the money. No. What little I had is long gone, and there's bills aplenty to pay yet. I buried my mother today. I ain't paid for that neither." "I wouldn't worry about it. I need to sit down." Chigurh nods at the bed, and Carla Jean sits down, hugging her hat and veil. "You got no cause to hurt me." "No, but I gave my word." "You gave your word?" "To your husband." "That don't make any sense. You gave your word to my husband to kill me?" "Your husband had the opportunity to remove you from harm's way. Instead, he used you to try to save himself." "Not like that. Not like you say." "I don't say anything except it was foreseen." "I knew you was crazy when I saw you sitting there. I knowed exactly what was in store for me." "Yes, things fall into place." The front door swings open and Chigurh emerges. He pauses with one hand on the jamb and looks at the sole of each boot in turn. He goes to the pickup in the driveway. He is driving. His point of view, coming upon an empty intersection, his light green. Back to Chigurh. He starts to turn his head to the right, and there is a huge crash. Chigurh's pickup has been T-boned by an old crate of a pickup. Both vehicles slide to a halt amid broken glass in the middle of an intersection. The windshield of the truck that ran the light is mostly gone. The driver is draped dead on the wheel. After a beat, the door of Chigurh's truck is pushed open. He staggers out, heavily favoring one leg where the jeans are shredded and bloody at the thigh. One arm is also bloody and hangs limp. Blood runs down his face from a scalp wound. He staggers to a lawn and sits. He looks up. 2 teenage boys have come out of nowhere. They goggle at him. Mister, there's a bone sticking out of your arm. I'm alright, just let me sit here a minute. There's an ambulance coming. Man over yonder went to call. It's alright. Are you alright? You got a bone sticking out of your arm. What will you take for that shirt? The two boys look at each other. They look back. What shirt? Any damn shirt. I need something to wrap around my head, and I need a sling for this arm. Boy 2 unbuttons his shirt. Hell, mister, I'll give you my shirt. Chigurh uses his teeth to clamp the shirt and rips it and wraps a swatch around his head. He twists the rest of the shirt into a sling and puts the limp arm in it. Look at that fucking bone. Tie this for me. The two boys look at each other. Just tie it. The boy, now wearing a t-shirt, ties it. Chigurh pulls a ball clip from his pocket and draws a bill out with his teeth. He holds it out to the boys. Hell, mister, I don't mind helping somebody out. That's a lot of money. Take it. Take it, and you didn't see me. I was already gone. Yes, sir. Wide on Chigurh limping off. Hey, part of that's mine. You still got your damn shirt. That ain't what it was for. Maybe, but I'm still out of shirt. Loretta pours Sheriff Bell and then herself morning coffee. Maybe I'll go riding. Okay. What do you think? I can't plan your day. I mean, would you care to join me? Lord, no, I'm not retired. A beat. Sheriff Bell sips his coffee. Maybe I'll help you here then. A beat. Loretta takes a sip. Better not. They sip. How'd you sleep? I don't know. Had dreams. Well, you got time for 'em now. Anything interesting? Well, they always is to the party concerned. Ed, Tom, I'll be polite. Okay. 2 of 'em both had my father. It was peculiar. I'm older now than he ever was by 20 years, so in a sense, he's the younger man. Anyways, first one I don't remember so well, but it was about meeting him in town somewheres, and he gave me some money, and I think I lost it. The second one, I was like we were both back in the older times, and I was on horseback going through the mountains at night. We cut to night and snow. It is the image that the movie began with, continuing in voiceover. Going through this pass in the mountains. It was cold and snowing. Hard riding. Hard country. He rode past me and kept on going. Never said nothing going by. He just rode on past and had his blanket wrapped around him and his head down. The rider passes as described. Horses' hooves drumming and scattering divots of earth and snow. And when he rode past, I seen he was carrying fire and a horn the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it, and about the color of the moon. And in the dream, I knew that he was going on ahead, that he was fixing to make a fire somewhere out there in all that dark and all that cold. And I knew that whenever I got there, he would be there, out there and up ahead. The rider recedes, and the image fades, the horn bearing fire going last. Thanks for listening to this, a screenplay or movie script reading of No Country for Old Men. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell button below if you want to be notified when new screenplay readings come out.